All right, ready to continue? I'll put myself back down. So we did exercise 1 and 2, I think. So we'll continue to do the following exercises. Let's see, we did exercise, where's exercise 1? Oh no, we did exercise 1. We did exercise 2, which is the operation order. We did the exercise 3, which was to compute the number of seconds in a year, right? Now we'll do the next exercise, which is already there. You need to type a function to calculate the square root of your favorite number. My favorite number is 12. My daughter's birth date, she was born April 12th, is square root of 12 then would be my pick. But you can pick your favorite number and use it as input to the function square root. Deal? So let's see another example. We could do square root of, let's say my husband's birth date, 30th. There you go. Exercise 5. Run the code below that applies the function rep with 2 inputs or 2 arguments, hello and 100. And take a look at the output. Explain what you think the function rep does and what arguments it requires. I should delete this. I'll delete this for yours so you can think about it. So I'm going to run the function and give you, I would say, pause the video, give yourself a couple of minutes to think about what this function is doing. All right, let's think about this. What is the function doing? You're going to type your answer here. The function is repeating the word hello 100 times. That's what it's doing. Let's think general about this. The function is repeating the first argument, the number of times specified in the second argument. If that's what you think the function was doing, you got it. And you could test this by, let's play around with this. Let's repeat stats is the best. Okay, and instead of 100 times, let's just repeat that 10 times. Yep, stats is the best, stats is the 10 times, right? You can play around with this however you want. But the idea is that the output sometimes helps you see what the function is doing. So the rep function allows repetition of the first argument if you don't name it, and the number of times specified by the second argument. All right, so we're about, let's say, halfway through, I would say. Let's talk about variables. That's an important thing, an important concept in R. In R, or any programming language, actually, we store information in variables or objects. Sometimes people talk about objects in R. At a conceptual level, you can think of a variable as a labeled container for certain pieces of information, or even several different pieces of information. I'm trying to read from the R Markdown, and I am purposefully just reading what's there because I want you to see that if I weren't reading and you were reading, you would be able to do it, to go through this lab. The reason I'm reading for you and working through this in front of you is for you to feel comfortable doing that next week. There are bunches of typos, so please correct those in your little files there. You will need to learn, just one N, a bit about variables now, beginning with how we create them and work with them. So let's think about numerical data first. Let's create a variable called MapStats2020 to store the number of students in our class this year. We do this by using the assignment operator, written as a leftward pointing arrow. Note, no space between the little minus sign and the little less than sign and the minus sign. They have to be together. If you put a space between them, it won't work. To create the variable MapStats2020, the command needed is therefore, you write the name of the variable. Names of variables can't have spaces, so if you want to space them out, you can use things like underscores for instance, but you cannot put spaces in there. Let's do what the exercise says. Map Stats 2020. There are 26 of you in there, so that's awesome. So I'm assigning the value 26. That's why it's a leftward arrow, right? I'm assigning 26 to this variable map stats. Now I'm going to run this. And that's the first time that the workspace that we talked about in the first video will come into play. Remember, that's the top right panel. Map stats is our variable, and it contains a piece of information in there, the number 26, that we know quantifies the number of students in the 2020 map class. Okay? All right. When we run the code, again, one thing that you should notice here is that there is no output. You see that? So we created the variable and the output comes here. The variable is created and it's available in your workspace to be used and manipulated. So you don't see any output below the gray box as we've been seeing before when we were not storing anything. So everything we were doing before, you got the output, but it was not saved anywhere. All right? So behind the scenes, R has created a variable called MapStats2020, and you can check that by looking here in the workspace, which is number 2 here. I think I got ahead of myself, but I did say this here. And you can also print the variable on the screen by simply typing its name as a command. So you just say MapStats2020, and then you can see what is inside of it. In this case, very simple, just the number 26. Okay? So you know that R did something when you assigned 26 to the variable MapStats2020. You can look at it in 2 ways. Either you print or you look at the workspace. It's possible that the video is making it hard to read what's on the screen, but I'm reading for you. If you want to read it, it's best to do so through your own lab space, right, in RStudio. All right. In addition to defining the MapStats2020, I can also define the variable MapStats2019, indicating how many students were in the stats class last year. So now there are 2 variables we define. MapStats2020, 26 people, and MapStats2019, 19 people. The nice thing about variables, and space here, is that we can do anything with a variable that we ought to be able to do with the information that it stores. That is, since R allows me to sum 26 and 19, I can sum the variables MapStats2020 and MapStats2019. Right? I can sum 2 numbers, and the 2 variables, don't forget to run them. Right? So I run them here so I can create the variable MapStats2019. So every code in your assignment, make sure you run it because we need to use it afterwards sometimes. So I was saying, the nice things about variables is that we can do with them what we could do with the information stored in them. Since R allows me to sum 26 and 19, I can sum the variables MapStats2020 and MapStats2019 to get the total number of students in the past 2 years. So here is an operation, a sum operation of the number of students in each one of the years. And there you have it, the response to 45 students total. Not surprisingly, if I want to store the total, I can assign the output of this calculation to a new variable, which I'll call here stats total. When we do this, the new variable gets the value 45, which is the sum of MapStats2020 and MapStats2019. So let's do that and then get R to print out the value of stats total so that we can verify that it's done what we asked it to do. So I pressed here. Again, nothing happened in the RMD. One way you can check things is look in the workspace. Stats total 45 because it's the sum of these 2. And then we can also print the variable, which I forgot to do here. You can do that on your own thing. Stats total, and you click, boom, 45. A slightly more subtle thing we can do is reassign the value of a variable based on its current value. For instance, in 2021, a new map class of, say, 25 students takes stats. Thus, we need to reassign the value of stats total so that it takes into account the new class. So MapStats 2021, say, has 25 students. So I want to update my prior variable that's stored here on the workspace, stats total, to be stats total, the current stats total, which is 45, plus the amount of students in 2021. So if I do this, I'm saving over stats total. I'm not creating a different variable that now has 70 students. All right? So here I'm showing you that if I say stats total equals basically stats total plus this, I'm saving over what the value of the previous variable was. So I'll go again. I can click here and recreate stats total as the sum of 2019 and 2020. And that stats total will have 45. And here, I'm getting the variable stats total, the current information in there, which is 45. And I'm adding the number of people in 2021, which is 25. And I'm reassigning that. So I'm saving over it. So once I do that, you look at stats total again and it's updated. Okay? In this calculation, R has taken the old value of stats total, 45, and added the value of MapStats 2021, producing a new value of 70. This new value is now reassigned to the stats total variable, overriding the previous one. Okay? So that was numerical data. How does R work with character data, right? Not numbers, but character, concepts. Variables or objects can contain more than numbers. For example, they can contain names. Who's the stats teacher? Me, Paula Silva. To assign that, don't forget, you need to put things in quotes like this. Okay? If you try to do this without the quote marks, R will complain. R will get fussy. And it will throw an error message at you like this. So let me tell you something here. When you have this little hash mark in front of a code, the code doesn't work. So you have to take it out. And then we'll put it back in, because if there's an error and you try to knit the document later, a problem occurs. So let's leave it out to see the error first. Stats teacher, Paula Silva. No square quotes. See what happens? It's like an expected symbol in stats teacher. So if there is no square quotes, R is expecting a number. If you want to put something that's not a number, you have to put it in square quotes. Okay? So put the hash mark back there so that R does not try to evaluate this code when we're needing the document later. Let's continue a bit more. Also, because the variable stats teacher is not a number, I'm not allowed to do operations with it. For example, if I create a variable social teacher, I cannot sum the two. Let's try it. Social teacher, Angeli Dutt. So we cannot do, so this assignment is okay. So if I do that, I'll get Angeli here. Stats social teachers here. Let's do this. Click here to create myself, stats teacher. Get into a groove to always click and run the code in the gray box. Now I get to here. I created the social teacher. That's fine. Let me take out the hash mark. So now the code is being read by R, and R is going to try and run it. And I'm trying to sum stats teacher and social teacher. Guess what's going to happen? R is going to get fussy and complain. It's going to say, error, can't sum these two things, non-numeric argument. And you're using a binary operator plus that requires two numbers for it to work. So let's put the hash mark back. The errors might be reported in a funny lingo. Sometimes they are. That is sometimes hard to grasp. I find myself frequently Googling errors. I copy and paste them to figure out what they are, because sometimes they're so cryptic. But this time, not too bad, right? R is complaining that I'm asking it to sum two names, which are non-numeric arguments. Something that's just not possible. Okay, so I can't do it. All right. We're almost there. Hang in there. Take a little break, and we'll come back with and finish up the assignment. Okay, bye-bye.